What's going on today, Nick?
Uh, Today I went to the job earlier and then I came home and I cooked some breakfast and then I started some chili, which I have simmering downstairs. Practiced some Spanish, read a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, read a chapter out of that, and that's about business and making the competition in that business irrelevant and finding your own blue ocean. And then I also read a chapter out of this book called Breakthrough Advertising, which is just about marketing and advertising. I practice Spanish a little bit. Here I am with you on this podcast.
Wow. Well,
And
it's
you?
a full day already.
I know.
A
Yeah.
very full day.
Got more to do too.
Seriously, and it's only 3 p.m. You have a lot more to go.
Yeah.
I realized in the middle of my day today that I like just went from one thing to the next 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 without like taking a break or like taking any time to I don't know, process or like reflect. Although I did while I was exercising, I was like trying to pay attention and telling myself, wow, this is great. You're like taking care of your body. You are like doing this for your health. You're doing this for yourself, like really being present with the like, what I was doing and reflecting on having some gratitude for that.
What kind of exercises did you do?
No, I did, let's see, I did exercises on the Peloton app. So I did like a 10-minute core workout, 10 minutes full body strength, and then 10 minutes stretching.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. And I liked it too because I just did it right in the living room and I was with the kids. So I got to spend time with them while they did whatever they did and I did my
Yeah.
workout.
Yeah. Yeah. When you live a busy lifestyle, just like getting that, what'd you say it was like 30 minutes, 10,
Mhm.
10, and 10? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes just getting that 30 minutes is exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah. I think that's a good like minimum. I mean, I guess even if I could just do 10 on some days, that's better than zero.
Yeah.
Try not to be too hard on myself, but also know that it is one of those things that it's not negotiable in terms of uh like whether or not I feel like it, I'll do it, but sometimes it's a matter of if I have the time because I don't usually like wake up early to do it, and then it's kind of hard at the end of the day. So I guess that other statement I just said isn't exactly accurate.
Well, I mean, you have kids and a job and a busy lifestyle. I mean, so it's not always easy. Just like scheduling the 30 minutes to work out, like you said, even if like 10 minutes is what you have that day, then perhaps that's just exactly what you needed. Like sometimes, I mean, I know we've been introduced to similar practices like um Qigong and floor chi. I noticed like with both of those, that's usually what I use for like something smaller. Like if I just need to like stretch out for 10 minutes or stand in that basic position, that's usually what I use for that. With kettlebells, typically I don't go very long. It's like 30 minutes, but it's a pretty intense exercise. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to be right flexible in what I accept as a movement because I've definitely been down the road of well, the only workout that counts is when you're pushing yourself past the point of what may be your limit.
Yeah. So with your with like your physical practice or your body practices, you know, um how does it normally go for you in just an average week?
It really does depend on my workload. Um, but I do try to do at least five. Well, I guess I try to do every day if I can, but that rarely happens.
Mm,
But I like walking, and that, yeah, I could usually just get like a few minutes in, even though in my mind I don't really count it if it's only like 10 minutes or so. But I like walking a lot. And it's really good. We have that exercise bike at home, that the Peloton, and that has like a variety of things to do on it too.
Yeah, I've never used the Peloton.
It's fun. I've always kind of liked like high intensity exercise. So the like cardio part I like. And then
Yeah.
there's really just a lot of variety on the like with the other kinds of workouts. Yeah, so I guess I do 10 minutes here and there sometimes too, because sometimes that is easier. And it's hard to reflect on everything all at once.
Yeah, in a week, keep the lot can go on.
Seriously. Yeah. I
Yeah.
used to, though, think of exercise as more of, I don't know, I guess I see it now more as, yeah, it's just good for so many things. For, well, yeah, like for the health, of course, but also just, it used to be more of like, this is just good for me to like lose weight or like have a body that I like the way it looks. But now it just has so much more of a purpose, like taking care of myself, having time with myself. I mean, it also is like a move it or lose it thing, I think, too, as you start to get older.
Yeah, no, I like that, and like getting into the spiritual aspects of exercise or working out, and what it could do for you to improve your health. Yeah,
Yeah.
how about your other practices? How have they been going? How about the breath work?
Yeah, the breath work is good. I mean, I use that every day, basically. Not like an intense, not always an intense, like very long session, but even just a few minutes here and there daily, I find, yeah, a good practice to like get into my body and to just be here now and in the present. Um, I guess I've been incorporating it a lot more into, so I've been meditating a lot more. So I've been incorporating it into that a lot more as well. I used to use it kind of just like beforehand to like then go into meditation, but now yeah, now I guess I kind of use it like all throughout, just paying attention to the breathing. I use it a lot to relax. I use it a lot like before bed, like when I'm laying in bed. It really just helps me like kind of like conk out.
And are you just doing the different techniques? Could you like give an example so that the listeners know, what we're talking about, so as far as like techniques going? Because maybe someone who doesn't know like anything about breath work, they don't really understand what we're talking about. But like I
Yeah.
know there was like the flowering breath that you taught me. I forget the names of the other ones. I just know
Yeah.
how like they go, you know?
So those breaths we were created specifically for the retreat.
Mm,
And my intention with that was just to use, because I mean, there are different kinds of, um, like different ways of like breathing in and breathing out, through the mouth, through the nose. So with that, I was like, all right, everyone could breathe in through the nose and everyone could breathe out through the mouth. I mean, for the most part, right? And you're not
yeah.
like stealing or culturally appropriating any kind of technique from anywhere.
Maybe Darth Vader's pissed off at you, but who knows?
He might be, right? But I don't know. I'll just have to cross that bridge if it ever gets to that point. So my intention was to really just take like the most basic of breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then we just elaborated on those. So I do a lot what's just called continual conscious breathing, and that's just breathing for a period of time. I mean, it could be 1 minute, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 40 minutes, and just paying attention. So, like, you're bringing your consciousness, awareness, attention, focus to your breath. And I mean, I prefer like breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And it could be really, it could just be really like soft and easy. or it could be like more intense. So I think we had the one breath that we started with, which was pretty like soft and easy. And then we did a more active breath. So active, I think of as like you're really kind of putting some effort or work into it. Like that's not the way I normally
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah, I remember doing that, and my body temperature, I felt like really, really increase. Like so much so that I got so hot I had to take the socks that I was wearing off because it was just getting so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think the temperature could go either way. I usually breathe like under a blanket when I do those kind of when I do that more active breathing.
Yeah, the one session that I had with you where it was just like the private session and I had the weighted blanket on, I really enjoyed that one. What's that
Mm.
one, what's it called? Where you like breathe in and when you're going out, you kind of make that sound where it's like,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
comes
love
out
that
in
breath
your mouth.
actually. That's so cool. That's the Brahmari breath. So, right, like I didn't want to use a breath like the Brahmari breath, which I think like originated in India. I learned it from this girl. I'm gonna mess up her name, but it's like Mallory Bowie. I don't know how to say her last name, but she I think her thing now is called like Homebody, and she teaches kind of like all right, hold on, let me like collect everything here. She teaches like neuroscience and somatics and kind of like spirituality, like like from a mystical perspective. So I took this class with her on interoception as a way of creating change. So interoception is going to be sensing your body from within. Exteroception is going to be like what your senses take in. And so we used that breath, the Brahmari breath, and we kind of did, it was weird, not weird, but it was interesting. We did a cross between like the Hello body, like the slow kind of moving on the floor, but like pendulating from like one end of a movement all the way to the other. And we also did it with the yin yoga. But yeah, that breath, the Brahmari breath. So it's like breathing in and exhaling out in a hum.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I noticed when I was doing that that I noticed my mental activity slow way down.
really.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I don't know if you'd like this book or not, but it's actually I think it's called Breath, and it's by Rickson Gracie, and he's a jujitsu practitioner, and he's like one of the best that has ever lived. He's an astonishing grappler, and he's worldly famous. But I know I was listening to a podcast with him one time, and I don't know what kind of like technique it is, but it's where like you breathe in quick and then you let it go, sort of like an air compressor, where it's like, and you let it go that way. I noticed something similar too, where it's like that slow exhale, where it just really slows things down for me mentally.
Yeah, well, that slow exhale, it when you exhale, it activates the part of your nervous system that does like bring everything down. So it really does kind of like relaxes everything.
Yeah, I didn't read that book by the way, but I want to.
I
So
think
I
I
don't
might
know if
have
it's
read
any
it.
good
Oh,
or
so
not.
I was gonna say it's like I think it's a yellow book
Uh, no, I don't know.
or yellow
From
book
what I've
cover.
seen,
I think I
yeah,
may
from
have
what
read
I've
it.
seen, it's like if you just like imagine a martial arts guy and like sitting in like legs crossed and then like doing like those like I don't know if you've seen like those belly breaths where they'll like suck in their gut and they'll like move their gut around.
Yeah, I use the belly a lot too with like that faster, the more intense breathing, or also just like some breaths that like you could do just out of your mouth, like that all comes out of your mouth. But I think of those as more like energizing. I don't usually use the breath work for like energizing purposes,
Mm.
but I do use that breath for like I think of it as like kind of like letting a lot go.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta admit, before that I started learning from you about breath work, I was super skeptical about breath work. I really was. And then I started with you with the type of breath work that you created uh, with the Blue Morpho online retreats. I was like, wait a second. I was being skeptical for no reason. And then I realized like, there's actually something to this. Maybe the people who have been practicing this for thousands and thousands of years actually know what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's definitely been something positive for me, that's for sure.
Yeah. I definitely relate with what you're saying. It seems like a little bit new agey, some of the I mean, there's just a lot of new age stuff out there now. I
Yeah.
guess that's we're in the new age.
Apparently. What age is
um,
that? The new one.
we're not in that old age anymore. Um, but yeah, I think it is becoming a lot more mainstream. So like hence the new age stuff too. But I think there's a lot more like science and evidence behind it now also. I just started following this. He's a neuroscience professor and researcher, I think at Stanford, and he had posted an article or just like a summary of his research that like 5 minutes of breathing using like a longer exhale like we talked about, almost like I think it would be like a sigh breath. I tried to find the article, I couldn't read it. I couldn't find it. Is what almost had more benefit than I think it was than I mean, I'm not quoting it exactly right, but like they compared it to like 5 minutes of meditation or like whatever meditation they compared it to, and then they compared three different breathing techniques, and that one, I mean, God, I'm really botching this. But it had a more benefit than the meditation, like this one type of breathing. So I think now that it is so much more mainstream and everyone is into, everything having to be proven by science to know that it works, we have to know with certainty that it works. It can't just be like, wow, I felt good after I did it. Um,
I think the Wim Hof bros out there are like probably just saying like I told you so.
yeah. I mean, that's more of like like the holotropic, or I guess I think that in and of itself is like a totally different thing too. I think some people might like call it holotropic, but I think that's like a like hours long thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like as far as the breath work goes, I like the relaxation ones like you do. And I don't need to
Yeah.
do the ones where it's like, all right, I'm gonna breathe for like 30 minutes and then go climb a mountain in like 25-degree weather with my shirt off. And, I'm okay.
Yeah. I've been so much about the relaxation too. Like I've been really practicing. I mean, I've just been trying to do everything slower actually. And yeah, even with the breath work, just being really slow with it. Um I feel like that was reflected a lot in, like in the work that we do with Hamilton. It's always like relax as much as you can during a ceremony. And then I was reading in this book by Thich Nhat Hanh, where I think it's just like, I forget what the title of the book is, but it's a book where he is kind of like summarizing Buddhism. And in that too, he talks about like we just need to really relax and just like allow, yeah, like allow our bodies to rest. And
Yeah.
then the interesting thing about
Yeah.
that too is, I told you I've been working with Dr. Sam Rader. So we're learning about, the conscious and the unconscious and like the symbolic realm of our understanding of the world. And in that too, like she's teaching us like to really like to be able to go there, to like go deeper, like you have to you go slow. So I'm really all about the slow practice.
Yeah, I've been doing that more and more, and also understanding that I don't need to be like beating my body up every day either. Like
Yeah.
there's certain times when actually like I'd rather enjoy it, Like when I go to a jujitsu class and I get beat up, like I actually do enjoy that, but
That
not
makes
every
sense.
day.
That
Not
makes
every
sense.
day. Or like even like snowboarding too. I went snowboard. So like for me, this past week, as far as like my activity goes, from last Saturday I went snowboarding. Sunday I did kettlebells. Monday I went snowboarding. Tuesday, Tuesday I went to jujitsu. Wednesday kettlebells. Thursday jujitsu. Friday I took off. Today I'm just been relaxing and recovering because my body needs it.
Yeah, I think our body needs all of those different things, right? We have to be able to go fast, go slow, and like go at a more kind of like pace in between and rest.
Yeah, yeah. That rest is important,
I think so
especially
too.
with, like when you're living an active lifestyle and active, like can well, I guess what I'm trying to say is active lifestyle could look many different things, many different ways to many different people. But I think it's always important to like include a rest day and to just relax and not be like active, like highly active at all. And
Yeah.
just go on a walk or something like you said. I've had this one shaman, she told me to not underestimate how strength can be built just by going on a nature walk. I mean, that's just includes anything. Like you go out your door, you go for a walk around town, it's a nature walk. And I've noticed actually doing that over the years has definitely increased my strength for sure. Because like instead of just like being like, oh, I'm just gonna sit around the house that day, or maybe some days like I legitimately need to just sit around the house, but like some days where I could just use that little bit of activity and just go for a walk, I know that's definitely has benefited me to just like frame it in that way where it can be something strength building. And it, like you said, we don't have to put strength building in this tiny little box of it's at the gym and it's only at the gym. Like it doesn't, it's many more things than just that in and of itself.
Yeah. That's cool. I know when you're talking about that, it reminds me, right, just of how much you could really accomplish with the walk. Because yeah, I use
Yeah.
it for exercise and also, I mean, I love doing it outside. I don't have a way of really like walking indoors. I mean, I don't have like a
Mhm.
treadmill or anything. Um, I picture like walking in circles. Sometimes I do walk up and down my driveway when the kids are outside. But yeah, I wouldn't like put that in the exercise box. But yeah, it is just like such a kind of like a time and a space to really like connect with the earth and nature and like all the space in between.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I would say like the spiritual aspects of it, connecting with the earth. I notice a lot for me when I'm just out on a nature walk. I'm mentally uh I'm mentally connecting with it all, the earth and the sun and the sky and the ground, the wind,
Yeah.
and then reframing all of those things as spirits and mentally going through that process.
Yeah.
So shamanic strength for sure. Just
I
building
think,
strength in the body.
oh, you asked for shamanic strength
I'm
on
just
your
saying it's
walk.
like it is shamanic strength. It's the awareness of the
Oh,
strength building itself
mm,
and just how that
sure.
activity can be, really beneficial to the body and build a strong body. And it's having that awareness. That's what I'm saying is the shamanic strength.
Yeah, it's so cool. You could actually do that with so many things. I mean, I incorporate that a lot into my breathing practice where I'll think like, all right, I'm going to use this breath, like these few minutes that I'm going to breathe to connect with. I mean, I'll think like, all right, so how did the earth that we're able to inhabit even get created, right? Like it was the bacteria that like had to evaporate into the clouds and then like rain down and the like the mycelium that had to help the plants connect with their roots and the trees that had to create like the environment for us to even breathe, be able to breathe. and then like all that happened before that, of course, and then um, all that's here now. So I feel like when I really take that into consideration, yeah, it does all those things you were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and when you go outside and you connect with the earth and you just see the scale of it, it is really grounding. Just
Yeah.
being just being encompassed by it. Yeah, and often like when I'm walking by the river too. I mean, this is definitely deep in the spirituality of shamanism, but there's this there's this aspect of the practice where you invoke divine ascended masters, and there's many divine ascended masters, and many of which aren't even known to people, or they are known to people, sorry, but they're just, like not the popular ascended masters. But I mean, in the divine ascended masters, like Buddha is there, Christ, and many other figures throughout history. But oftentimes I think about the book Siddhartha, which, for all purposes that I can account for, Siddhartha definitely is one of the original Buddhas. And part of Siddhartha's life, and in the book, when you read it, you find out that he just sort of ran away from this like life of riches and became a ferryman. And often in the book, it would talk about him listening to the river and what the river had to say to him, and this old man teaching him how to be a ferryman. So often, like when I go for a walk near the river, I definitely um, like to invoke Siddhartha through the seven divine channels of color and the chakras. And yeah, and just being consoled by this divine ascended master during those walks and just asking questions, like for instance, like how do I deal with people that piss me off? Like at work or wherever, really. And with the spirit of Buddha, it always goes to compassion. It's like find
Mm,
the compassion for them.
yeah.
And
Passion for yourself
the
too.
one trick pony. Yeah, one trick pony. I love the Buddha that way. But
Yeah.
for
Well, that makes a
sure,
lot of sense. I feel like the heart, can't go wrong.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough sometimes. It's really tough sometimes because like, you know, when you say like let's have compassion for everyone, that one's tough. I always find that one to be tough.
Really?
Yeah, I find that one to be tough because like I could have compassion for a lot of people, but then there's like some people throughout history I'm like, oh, I don't like that person at all. Like what they did and their stories are horrible. But it's like how do you end that hatred, and it's through compassion
Yeah.
and understanding. Like they
Those,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, go on.
I was just gonna say like understanding like I'm sure that they were also a product of their environment at the time,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
probably severely mentally ill too.
So do you feel like, do you have a hard time having compassion for yourself?
That's a good question. I would say that yes, there are certain aspects that I've found challenging, but through doing the work of um, doing the work in shamanism and through different types of plant medicines and different types of journeys, I found that um, challenging, yes, but impossible, no. And I have found compassion for myself and my own personal history and my own mistakes and all of it. That's another thing too, that just like the walk by the river, hanging out with Siddhartha, um, has taught me is that yeah, mistakes are gonna happen. They're gonna continually happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's being human.
That's just a human thing.
Yeah, put your best foot forward, and
Yeah, yeah.
whatever else falls down, it falls down.
I like to think about God a lot to help me with compassion.
Mm,
From what I understand, God loves us no matter what.
yeah. Yeah. I've I've found the same thing. Even though it's honestly it's hard for me, it's hard to recognize anyway. But not with everyone. Like I
Right.
just like certain thing like I know that uh like thinking about like all right, in terms of like Hitler or like Mussolini or like any of these people who have been in charge of genocide throughout history. There's so many. Like to understand it that way and to understand like to have compassion for those people too, I find that one hard.
Mm. I think how I try to do that is I think about them and imagine that they probably had a family that, or something that that for them was like a real love.
Yeah.
And I just kind of imagine that they truly loved something in the way that they could. And someone probably loved them in a way that they could. Or also, um, I think this is something to consider too with the compassion, that it's not just, I think we might have talked about this before, like they weren't just raised or created, separate from anything. They were created
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
world they were, within the world the rest of us were created in.
Yeah, the product of their environment for
Yeah.
sure. And I like what you said because I'm saying like, someone loved them and they loved someone or something, whether it be a pet or whatever. And I like that as the definition for a compassion because that doesn't mean you know, like justifying or accepting what like horrible things certain people have done throughout history. It just means like, yeah, I'm sure like somebody loved them and they love something too, despite all the horrible shit that they did.
Yeah. 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 I don't think like having compassion is an excuse for people. I think it is just recognizing that there's this, I don't know. I mean, those are pretty big. Those figures that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, I threw some heavy
It's
things
not like
in
they were like,
there.
like little innocent. I don't know why like a church mouse like comes to mind. I don't even know what it is. I
Yeah,
mean, they caused some pretty really big destruction and pain, lots of pain and suffering that like still today.
reverberates.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a ripple going on from all
Hmm.
that. I'm still sure there's a ripple going on from the original war that has happened in humanity, still going on today, or still reverberating. It's just evolved in its many forms.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe God's like you really fucked up, but I don't know
But
if
uh, but I still love you.
it's like you couldn't see the error of your way anywhere, not at one point in time. But
What'd you
I
just say?
still love you.
What was that thing you just said?
You
You
couldn't
couldn't what?
couldn't see the like error in your way at any one point
Uh,
in time.
hmm, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I can't even
that's
imagine like having lived in those times and like all of the decisions that people had to make to like whether support or not support or
yeah.
that's the
I'm gonna drop an anime on this, and definitely a recommendation. But there's this one anime, and I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but it's called Attack on Titan, and it really blurs the line between good and bad, or like the good characters and the bad characters. And it really made me think about World War II and people in Germany or people, like in Japan, specifically Germany, where they were, like just like, doing some really, really horrible shit to innocent people. And just like thinking about like the young 15-year-old to like 17-year-old boy who's being groomed to go into the armed forces then. And just like, like you said, product of the environment. I mean, it really does, raise the question, and I would say, like a philosophical question of like, and are those people evil? Well, I don't think so.
Mm.
How, like those kids specifically. Now, if you talk about Hitler, like, yeah, that dude's definitely done some pretty evil shit, obviously
It
enough.
was like, how do you call some or not call someone like that evil?
Yeah, you have to. It's just like you exterminated like a couple million people. Yeah, that's some pretty evil shit, you know? But yeah, no, I mean, but yeah, like you said, of I'm sure like they love someone and someone loved them, whether it was their cat or their goldfish or something. And yeah, that's the compassion. That's the compassion for sure. But not the acceptance or like you said, making an excuse or whatever. I really like that. That's actually like hearing that's healing for me, and it totally redefines the way I think about compassion and the way I define it.
Yeah, I feel like without the love, I'm not sure if anything actually ever changes.
Mm, yeah.
And I'm not
Ever since
exactly sure why. Or maybe I do know. I'm just like, it's not coming to me now. But I have this sense that the thing needs to be like loved first. And then only with that can it be something different.
what thing?
Whatever.
Whatever
Whatever that thing is.
whatever thing. Yeah,
All the things.
all the things. That's tough. It's tough. That includes all the things we just talked about.
Yeah.
That one's tough for
I
sure.
think though, it's like, I don't know, maybe something with resistance. Yeah, I don't really know what it is right now. I've had it before.
But focusing on the compassion and like, like the little things in your own life. For me, ever since the summer, I've been consistently creating a practice around waking up, invoking my core guides to guide me throughout the day, to find compassion for the people that I encounter, whether it be through work or at the gas station, at the store, wherever, really. I just been opening my eyes to see just how similar I am to other people too, and my own hypocrisies, which
Mm.
I definitely like need to call out on myself. On like getting angry at someone for something and then realizing that I was just doing the same thing. So it's really been awakening me to yeah, just to that, and then to the release of those behaviors and going into a shamanic ceremony to really just restructure my own psyche so that I don't have to behave in those hypocritical ways anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there's so many parts of us that to get everything like in line and functioning in a non hip, I'm going to say the word wrong, hypocritical way, everything really has to be like, like
Yeah,
working all
yeah,
together.
yeah. Yeah, you know what it is too? Well, for me anyway, it was just having a delusion about myself and between the way I act, thinking that like I was acting differently than some way that I actually was acting, or blaming others to find out like it was actually I was the one who was doing it. Like I have like a lot of examples with that just at the job that it's been awakening me to, which I'm actually grateful for because in the aspect of, you know, finding the compassion for myself, understanding that I'm just human and that's kind of sort of like a normal human thing, but I don't have to then stay within that state. Once I become aware of it and once I recognize it, then I can, you know, sort of just transcend out of those behaviors and focus on new ones that are just, you know, better overall as far as interacting with myself and other people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what life's about, right? So much of it too, like we're kind of like flying unconscious or just like doing things out of habit or going from like we talked about, like you had done so many things, it was already you had done so many things in your day and it's we still have like quite a bit of time left in the day. Like we're always moving from one thing to the next. That I feel like it's easy for a lot of things that we do to kind of to do them without awareness and to
Yeah.
behave in ways which, right, we might not have actually realized. The only thing that reminds me of something that Dr. Sam said this week is that everything that we see in other people is actually like other people are just a reflection of ourselves, basically, or a reflection of like something from whether conscious or unconscious from ourselves, which I think is kind of in line with what you were saying, right? Like seeing the behavior in someone else, but really it's your behavior as well. And I see
Yeah.
that too. I have this like pattern with Louis where I'm like constantly annoyed at this one specific thing he does, but when he does it, I do the thing that he's doing. Like serenity now. I should maybe just start doing that, and that will be like that'll bring in the laughter, and that'll be that. We'll call it.
Yeah. The laughter brings levity. Yeah. That's a funny
I just
expression.
read, or actually, I heard this podcast. I'm not going to remember the name of the guy or the name of like his theory. It's Christian something, but it's kind of like a system he has to like diffuse anger in situations, and he talked about like two worlds, like the real world and the cartoon world. So like the real world is like the world you're living in, and then the cartoon world is like the world in which you like expect this person to act that way, and you expect your partner to come home and do this thing, and I expect my kids to say like good morning mommy, I love you so much, right? Like, and you gotta like get out of that cartoon world and into like into the real world
Mm,
and just kind of take everything as it is and take
yeah.
people as they are and take yourself as you are too.
Yeah. That's some sage advice.
I know I've been thinking about that a lot recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking things as it is. You know, I would say for the most part, it's definitely for me, uh, or it has been, um, I guess how do I want to say this? All right. So for me, taking things as it is sometimes can be hard. Not with everything. Like with most things, it's like I just take things at face value. But then there's like some things where it's difficult. And like you said, it's based on that expectation of like, oh, I expect it to be this way because of some like deep rooted duality that I have, because like if it's not this way, then that thing is bad, and if it is this way, this thing is good. And it's just a very simplified way of looking at it and framing the world, even though it's it might not be, you know, totally based in reality.
Yeah, you're in the cartoon world.
Yeah, so that actually like highlights the practice that I need to start practicing is, you know, accepting things as they are and releasing expectations. And really since the summer of this past year, I've that's like one thing I've really been focusing on is the expectations that I have and releasing them. But still, I gotta admit, like some expectations still remain.
Of course. I mean, you're human.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's like an
Yes.
ongoing. I don't know if you ever get to the place where you're like, I'm expectation free. It's like
Yeah,
maybe
probably
the
not.
process is faster, or maybe you do it and you like release the, or you notice the feeling quicker, and you could come back to like right having the acceptance and the grace and the compassion and the embracing for the person and yourself. I think that's really all. That's what it is. It's like practicing those things, and then, right, like in your everyday life, when you realize you're at or in a place you don't want to be, just getting back to, all right, I'm accepting, I'm embracing, I'm offering everyone grace, I'm offering myself compassion and everyone else. I don't think it's about like, tiptoeing on this line where everything you do is in line. I think it's having those tools that you practice, and then when you realize, oops, you could fall back
That's
on.
when the practice starts.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's when the practice starts. That's when I think the practice is working.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and laughing at yourself too. I've been
Yeah,
laughing at
that's
myself.
like the number one thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely brings levity to me and like not taking myself so seriously. I think I
Yeah,
spent too many years doing that.
yeah. I don't think any of us should really take it all so seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, what is, yeah, like even thinking about it, like, what is like serious?
Mm. That is a very deep philosophical question. Let's see. What what is seriousness?
Like, important?
Yeah, yeah,
If something serious to talk to you about, no.
yeah.
Serious consequences.
Serious consequences, which are real.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
real. You gotta be aware of those things for
Like, I'm going to
sure.
wear my seatbelt in the car because there
Yes.
could be serious consequences when I'm driving if I get into an accident and don't have my seatbelt on. So
Yes.
serious would be like deadly or
Deadly. Yeah. There's a lot of definitions for serious
uh,
and that principle.
serious.
It's the name of a star. Serious.
Hmm. Hmm. It's so weird. Like, I don't even know what the word means.
It's an interesting word,
Yeah.
but yeah, in shamanism, the one thing that has kept things like in levity for me is learning not to take myself seriously, but to take the practice seriously.
Hmm. Yeah, I see
So
that.
like not like taking myself in the practice seriously, but the practice itself very serious.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's kind of reflecting what we're just talking about. Because the
Yeah.
practices work, but like it's okay when you kind of just fuck up. And
Yeah.
we've talked about that before too, right? Like just being able to admit that, oh, this didn't go like the way I had envisioned it or intended it or wanted it to go. But
Right.
I don't know
Right.
if we're like 100% in control of that.
I don't think we are.
No.
Yeah. And like taking the practice of shamanism seriously, for me, like that looks like knowing the spirits that I'm invoking and knowing the spirits that I invoke actually are based in benevolency. So, when I actually do make that mistake, it's just like, hey, it's okay, buddy. Try again. That type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the spirits are out there to punish us either. I don't think really there is punishment. I think that's like a human construct.
Mm, yeah, I think so too. I think that's part of the human psyche to like get some type of retribution.
Yeah, or like teach a lesson.
Yeah, teach a lesson through punishment and through pain and like all of that.
Yeah. I mean, what you do learn lessons through pain and suffering, but
Yeah.
I don't know if like I mean, do you have to have the pain and suffering to learn a lesson? I mean, I think you could learn without it. I mean, sure, some things maybe you can't, but yeah, I don't know like how much of the intentional pain and suffering you need to learn lessons.
Yeah. I know it sounds like really simplistic when, like you said, like you don't know that if pain and suffering are needed to learn lessons. Uh I think that the lessons that you learn in pain and suffering, the pain and suffering is required, but I don't think that's always needed though either. And I'd rather focus on the lighter aspects, the lighter aspects of just existence itself, because I mean, life's gonna throw at you challenges one
Yeah, I
way or
mean, I
another.
think pain is inevitable.
Yeah,
But
I
right,
think
like
so too.
inflicted in terms of punishment,
Yes.
I guess maybe that's kind of optional and unnecessary. I don't know
Yeah,
what
or just
necessary
like punishing
qualifier.
themselves for making a mistake, you know, and it really doesn't make sense to me anymore.
No, really not.
Yeah. Yeah. So what other practices have you been up to?
So the meditation, breath work, a lot of relaxing, a lot of slowing down. I've been doing, I guess, almost like the floor chi, but more so for my constricted self. So the part of me that's like embarrassed to basically exist as myself, to like fill into my body, to those kinds of things. So just like moving slow or in whatever way I want to on the floor.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I really like that practice a lot. Like, I don't know. It might seem okay, so if you can see me like a lot this week I've been like doing like this, or like I've been like like rolling around on the floor. It's sort of like this, and just like really rolling out my back and my shoulders
Mm.
really, really slowly. I definitely notice how that brings a body awareness, and I really, really like that teaching of going up until the point where feel exerted and then backing off. I've been using that with all of my body practices, even lifting weights, going up to the point where I feel exerted and then I back off. So I haven't really, as far as like lifting weights, I haven't been doing like a, a rep count. Or if I am counting reps, it's just like I'm counting it. But if I don't get to like the number, if it's unequal, it's fine. I'm just going for that point of exhaustion. So it's more based on the way I feel.
Do you notice differences with this?
Yeah, I noticed that I'm not exhausted, and that when I go and return to the that type of movement again, I notice I could do more.
Hmm.
Like with
It's
the
interesting.
kettlebells and with other things, I noticed that it's really strength building. I noticed that anytime that I would ever push myself into a state of exhaustion, it would just go beyond the point of a diminishing return. So like would just exhaust myself, and then ultimately, it wouldn't have a beneficial outcome. But I noticed like with this type of different philosophy of going up until the point where you're feeling that exertion and then dialing it down, it helps me to not exhaust myself.
I like that. It's almost like what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
The like is maybe that going to that point of exhaustion, punishing yourself. But I'm sure there's some science behind, I don't know, muscle building, and I guess it all depends on your goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess for me, my goals would just be to have a strong body and to have a healthy body. I'm, you know, I don't know like what kind of like mental uh aberration that I've had as far as like my own body images when I was younger. But I know when I was younger and I would be like sort of in the bodybuilding practices where like I would try to um like reshape my body in a way that it might not have been the healthiest thing, and in fact it wasn't,
Yeah. I
because
can.
I had like an image in my head where I wanted my body to look like that, because that's what I thought that would, number one, attract women to me, and number two, I thought then that's what I would like, and that society like, and all of that other kind of bullshit. Yeah, and then I got to jujitsu, and then I learned that all of that muscle that I put on really didn't do a damn thing, and I was like, getting choked out by like, I don't know, teenagers when I was
Mm,
22 years old. I was like, oh well,
yeah.
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like all those things you wanted. How we
Yeah,
learn like that's not exactly the way to, I don't
I
know,
guess for me,
acquire or
yeah, for
achieve
me it was always
what it is.
like I wanted to build a body to be like strong and tough and like those types of things, right? And so like, you look at like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you look at like, like these people who like I assumed, would be strong and tough. And then, I mean, I would like to see like a bodybuilder. I mean, you've seen it. You could see it online, like bodybuilders versus like any type of jujitsu martial artist or mixed martial artist. If they don't have training, they have no chance, or
Mhm.
they have like maybe a percentage of 1% chance.
It's
And so
like,
that's what,
I'm sorry, they say all bark and no bite.
yeah, kind of like that thing for sure. I just find it interesting though, like this thing in society where, like if you think you're gonna be like if you're gonna try to be tough, like you gotta go like, I don't know, bench press like 300 pounds or whatever, whatever it is. But it's actually the opposite thing that I've learned, is because when I then started martial arts, all that muscle that I built, I was actually to a detriment.
I feel
I
like too,
wasn't
if you have a lot
flexible.
of muscle, you're usually, I mean, you can't say like no, not everyone who has muscle is like inflexible, but I feel like sometimes it comes at like the expense of all of the other like elements of fitness.
Yeah, my golf swing definitely was not as flexible. I couldn't hit the ball as far, which I found
Really?
kind of weird. Yeah. I was like, what the hell? Spent this time at the gym thinking I'm going to be able to like drive the ball 400 yards, and it went down. What the
Huh.
heck?
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how we like get these ideas of what we should be like or how to get the things that we want when in fact it's like nowhere near like you're just missing the mark
Mm.
entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, mm, I think, it comes to like what's good for you, like what's really good for you, what's really, really good for you to do. And I mean, for me, it just looks like eating healthy on a regular basis, understanding that when I eat healthy on a regular basis, that if I have like a piece of chocolate cake or something of that nature, uh, that it's not going to affect me as much. And to also to practice, like you said, like having that mentality of having compassion for yourself, even through the mistakes and those things. I find that uh, is beneficial for me. What have you found?
um what have I found is healthy for me?
Yeah, what's good? Like, what is good for you?
What is good for me? I mean, I think having an intention, so to have something to aim for, also having some like understanding of like, so for example, you said your intention used to be like because you wanted girls to like you. So maybe like what actually is that intention? Like something underneath there.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
For your practices, um, like with the walking and with the Peloton, and those things, afterwards, what's your mental state like?
Hmm. Good. I guess more like calm. And also, like I said, I've been incorporating the practice of just kind of um, or like acknowledging that I'm really doing something for myself. I think that's so been helpful for me, so I could really like recognize, all right, I'm doing enough. I'm really taking care of myself, like letting myself know that like I do really love myself. I mean, I guess mostly I think what's best for me is really just taking care of myself and like my health, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health. Probably like the spiritual part's the most important. And I think that kind of like almost, we kind of talked about this earlier, could be covered with like anything, or like through
Yeah,
anything. I noticed too, like, I talked about how with the breath work, I'll think about it, like all the other things that it incorporates or that I could connect to with the breath work. But I could also do that like when I'm cooking, like I could think about like having gratitude for all the people that like whose hands had to, who had a hand in like getting my food to where it is when I'm cutting it. Or like even when I'm knitting, I think of that too, like the girls that like came up with the colors and then the girls that like packaged it and the ones that like put it up on the internet for me to buy and like the people who raised the sheep and the people who like shorn the sheep, is that the word, took the
I
fur and the wool off the
think
sheep,
I've heard
like
that word before.
really like connecting to all of everything with things that I'm doing. So I think, yeah, I think really just, I guess, ultimately focusing on all of the, like the connection and what's really like, yeah, like the heart of everything.
Yeah, you mentioned spirituality being important, and I would absolutely agree with you. Um, as far as being healthy, what do you think the spiritual junk food is that we have to sort of protect ourselves from, or just say no to?
Spiritual junk food. Is this like a spiritual war question?
I don't know. No. What do you mean, spiritual war?
I was just talking to Louie about this. What was I was listening to something and someone was talking about us being in a spiritual war. Spiritual junk food. I guess that's the stuff that like, I mean, would it be the stuff that you think is connecting you, but it's really not? Almost like not knowing your intention or not being aware of it. Almost like, being on social media when maybe I don't know. Like maybe, you want to like call a friend or something, but instead you go on social media and like to feel connected to random people.
I think you just put that really well. Yeah, I would. That seems like spiritual junk food for me.
Yeah.
I definitely do that.
I mean, what do
I
you think?
stopped
What
doing
is
that.
spiritual junk food? Like, what can you be?
Well, you brought up like the idea of being healthy, and then um that the spiritual aspects you find really important, and it just gave me the idea of um just like when we're eating, we have to, if we're going to be healthy, we can't just like have cookies all the time. We just can't have junk food. So I was thinking like, what kind of uh spiritual junk food do we have to stay away from out there? And I think you put it very well with, just like the mindless scrolling on social media to connect
Hmm.
to people when perhaps you just need to maybe, go connect with a friend.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was kind of thinking about that today in a way. And this goes back to social media. I mean, I don't know if it goes back to social media, but it's just more prevalent now as is social media. Um, for me at least, I've been thinking just a lot more in terms of like being more simple, or like simplifying life. And I feel like oftentimes too, I see in spiritual things that um like having more and more, like these so-called like spiritual, I don't know, people or I don't know, teachers, I don't know who to call them, but like they maybe just like fall into this category of spiritual,
Sure.
like, but also like building big businesses or achieving more or like doing these awesome things for like, the idea wasn't like totally fleshed out in my head, but kind of like contradicting for me. I think almost the spirituality is like has been drawing me into like really paring down and like what's inside of me, and I don't have to go outside looking for all of the like the riches of the world, that they're really just like right here to be found. And I think society, maybe culture, is like bigger, better, more, faster, accumulate. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes that could be under, or like, you know, you could see people who identify as spiritual kind of um perpetuating these things.
Mm. Yeah, the greed. I think that's what you were
Greed, yeah,
describing.
I
Yeah,
mean, I
the
guess, yeah, it
greed,
could
like
fall under
more
the
and
heading
more.
of greed. I think there is just like, yeah, like more and more and more like consume to fill, yeah, like this void that I think actually may be filled, right, when things are like more simple, when there's more like kind of like a peace inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say like the spiritual junk food and the literal junk food definitely coincide as the same thing. For instance, I know people who I'm really close to and I love very much, but this person, all they do is eat sugary junk food pretty much all day. And I know this person would say that if he had $1 million, he would want 1,000,001. And so I see that as like literal junk food and and the spiritual junk food, because like if I would then adopt that mentality, I would suffer from the same things he suffers from.
I don't know if I'm actually clear on what you're trying to express there.
Okay, so
Are you saying this person's like a spiritual person and they
no, 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 no,
also,
no.
oh, okay.
I'm not saying he's a spiritual person at all, but I'm looking at spirituality just as like the connection, you know, of things.
Hmm.
Like the connection that I have with him as my relationship, and then seeing what type what type of afflictions that this person suffers from, and knowing that it's just greed. It's greed. I see it in the amount of sugar that he eats, like just more and more and more and more and more sugar, sugar, more sugar. And also too, just like what I said, like I've definitely been told this by this person of like if he had $1 million or $1 billion, he would want 1,000,001. And it's like
Once
that
more.
kind of mentality leads to nothing ever being good enough and
Oh
never
yeah.
realizing what you have either.
Yeah, I totally understand that though. And sometimes that could be like, again, we talked about this. Maybe he just doesn't even like, he consciously may see that he's doing that, but might not understand like the symbolism behind like what that actually means for him. I don't know if
Yeah.
everyone really has like the, you know, the awareness of what their behaviors mean.
I don't think no, I mean I think that if he knew the way he behaved, uh he probably wouldn't want to behave like that and would behave another way, but it's just he's unaware.
Yeah, maybe
But I
that's
mean as
where
far as like the
compassion practice
spiritual,
comes in.
yeah, yeah, oh, yes, bringing it back to the compassion. But being aware too of like not to take on that kind of ideology and mentality either.
Oh, definitely. You know, deprived, that's like one of Dr. Sam's coping styles, which I think that's what you're talking about here. So that could literally be like a almost like a wounding that this person has.
Mm,
So deprived is a feeding injury that, you know, all these things happen like from 1 to 5 or birth to 5. where the mom's back is either literally or figuratively turned. So the child, what they get is it's not nutritious.
Mm.
It's like sour milk.
Hmm.
Or it could be like the mom literally has like lots of unprocessed like emotions or feeling sensations, things like that, unprocessed trauma stuff in the body. So what you receive isn't like good and nutritious, and it's not like round, yummy morsels. It's like square. So your stomach doesn't learn how to digest like the round, like nutritious, yummy stuff.
Mm.
So you feel like icky on the inside, but you think more and more and more is going to fill that. But in actuality, like you said, you you have to learn like gratitude and the appreciation. Those are like the digestive enzymes. You have to learn how to allow yourself to take in the good stuff and realize that like you yourself are good. So people that have that injury like feel like there's something bad on the inside.
Mm. Yeah, wow. That's a really interesting way to put it. I've never heard it expressed like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it does make sense for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's what I heard when you were talking about that friend.
Actually a family member.
Oh, family member.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which will
Yeah, so
probably
that
like watch
person
this.
needs a
This is
lot
my
of love.
grandfather.
Oh, really? Mm.
Yeah,
So you get to
yeah,
love him in little bits. Maybe you can't take in a whole lot at first.
yeah. I definitely noticed that, but yeah, like you said, having the compassion to understand, like, yeah, he's on his own journey.
Yeah, yeah, we're not responsible for others' journeys. I mean, I try to think of that even like in terms of my kids. I mean, I mean, even though I take care of them and try to teach them to the best of my ability, I'm not really ultimately responsible.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
I just have to
it's
trust
interesting.
that,
Yeah, you gotta trust that you're giving it your best, and
yeah, and trust that everyone around them is doing the best and
yeah, I mean, I
things
don't
will
know
just
what it's
work
like to
out for
raise a
them.
child in this world. I'm sure there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
I I was gonna ask you if you have a little bit more time. What are your practices around that?
Around my kids or
Yeah,
around,
yeah, just around being a mother.
well, I think all the things that we talked about help with the mothering because you definitely have to, take care of yourself first. So I have to be really mindful of making sure that I have not reached any kind of limit of not, you know, of neglecting to take care of myself. I think the breath work is so helpful for the kids, for like having patience, for having like the awareness of, like I'm starting to feel like tightness or frustration, and maybe I just need to take a breath, or so the awareness in general, or even the awareness of that, like I'm just talking on and they're like they've tuned me out and like what are you even saying at this point.
Funny.
Yeah, so a lot of patience, a lot of like paying attention to how I'm feeling, I think, and really practicing like a lot of acceptance of them and trying to be non-judgmental and realizing like where I'm projecting onto them
Mm,
and where I'm judging. Um, yeah,
I mean, hey, you're doing the work to, you know, be aware of all those things. I find that amazing.
yeah. Thanks.
I mean,
It's
I don't
amazing.
hear too many people who are actively, you know, awakening and becoming aware of all of those things. And putting intention into the practice of that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
thanks. I'm gonna take that. I think too, a part of, I guess, now that you mentioned it, something I had to start to do too is like value myself as a mother, and that it is, I mean, even though not anyone could be a mother, but if you were born with the uterus, you could be a mother for the more or less. So, the job is, I was trying to think of an analogy here, but there's mostly a job opening for anybody if you got the parts right. Um, but but like it's not, it's not like a value. Not that it's not. It's really not a valued thing. I don't think in society really. Um,
Valued thing as far as being a mother or working on aspects of yourself to relax in stressful situations? Both?
uh, well, yeah. I mean, I think any of that stuff, to be honest.
Mm,
But yeah, I think like motherhood, let's say, is not always a valued thing. I mean, there's no, yeah, it's essentially like a totally uncompensated for thing that, or practice that's super valuable to society. I mean, we're taking care of the next generation, but then there's no support really for motherhood in terms of like, well, maternity leave or even like childcare and all of the other things that kind of get all the other like elements of life that mothers have to balance between like mothering.
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, being a mother in this world is probably not easy.
No, it's not. And then there's too, like we were talking about this before we started recording, like the technology and
Oh yeah.
kids are basically little cyborgs at this point, and like worrying about that and worrying about the food and I mean, we talked about this before, but like worrying about like the plastics and the food and the this and the that and the like all the other stuff. Like I learned that Lucas like could buy juice every day at lunch. I didn't know that. Like he's drinking juice every day. I had no idea.
Huh.
Like that's on your school lunch menu.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, probably like 30 grams of sugar a pop.
I mean, I don't even want to know. He likes the fruit punch though. And it tastes like sour gummy bears.
Did you say
Yeah.
life is a fruit punch?
Life is a bowl of cherries. I do love
Uh,
cherries.
yeah, yeah.
Do we talk about all your practices before we run out of time?
Uh, yeah, I think so. I mean, as far as what I've been up to, I think so. I think I pretty much summed it up pretty well as far as, having awareness around what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and not pushing myself too far, only going up to a point where I feel exertion and then backing off, having a healthy diet and recovering really from the holidays and having an unhealthy diet for a little bit and yeah, and just bringing in that compassion for myself. I think that's what I've really been journeying to work on, and self-acceptance, and that even includes like the self-acceptance for having had been hypocritical and having maybe what would be called negative emotions and those types of things, and then just releasing all of it so that I could transform, and just become better at what I do and how I interact with people. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think I covered most of them, at least what I've been doing recently. Yeah, I'm on board with all what you're doing.
Likewise.
I always learned
Yeah.
a lot from you.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I always enjoy these conversations.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, I think that concludes all I have to say for today.
I'm talked out.
Ah, yes. Talked out and got to use the bathroom. Well,
Don't ignore that.
yeah.
I can't ignore that anymore, else I might pee in my pants.
I've been holding it for a while.
Another consequence of having children. And with
Yeah.
that,
And with that,
oh, gee.
well, that concludes really everything that we had planned to talk about. Our original intention for today's topics were just to talk about what we've been up to and our practices and what we have been really practicing. And so, thanks for listening. And we definitely plan to record another one soon, I think, right? Like maybe weekly or bi-weekly, something like that, or twice a month,
Twice a month.
something
Yeah.
along those
We get the
lines.
same thing as biweekly, more or less, right?
Yeah, twice a month, something along those lines. And with that, I wish everyone best of wishes, well wishes, much love to you all.
Bye.